Daniel Colombini is a principal and director of plumbing and fire protection engineering at Goldman Copeland Associates, an engineering consultancy in New York, where among his many accomplishments, he initiated that firm's first in-house fire modeling. Dan is a recognized expert on fire protection and was one of our magazine's 40 Under 40 honorees in 2020. We welcome Dan to the Weekly.
Thank you for having me, John.
Dan, let's start off our conversation by exploring some of the fire code changes or trends that your company is keeping an eye on that could impact non-residential construction.
Sure. Again, thanks for having me. A few things. Probably the most obvious thing to mention is the industry's reaction to the pandemic. Everything's been upended by the pandemic in one way or another, and that includes both the operation of our existing buildings as well as design and construction of new buildings. Right now, we have a situation where many buildings are left vacant or largely vacant. And in those situations, we need to make sure that all of our safety systems in the fire protection realm and otherwise are being maintained and inspected and tested as they normally would. And in addition to that, we put a lot of safety measures in place in these buildings to mitigate the risk of COVID transmission. So those things could include dedicating certain entry points dedicated to entry or exit, having certain areas for queuing, trying to promote social distancing and reduce crowding. So we're sort of rearranging the way we circulate around our buildings. We also need to think about how those changes are going to affect our life safety systems. For example, evacuation strategies or evacuation capacity. Other things related to the pandemic are, we sort of forget about, but we're storing large amounts of alcohol-based hand sanitizer in almost every building there is.
That's a good point.
So, we need to make sure that people are familiar with the regulations that tell us how to protect, that kind of flammable storage in any kind of occupancy. So we have these things. We've all been scrambling and reacting through the pandemic to make our buildings safer and to reduce the risk of transmission of the virus. So ultimately, and this will become more at the forefront of the discussion as we, hopefully get more and more of the population vaccinated and we're able to reoccupy buildings on a higher scale, on a larger scale. We're really going to need to look at these things in closer detail. So sort of that reaction and then adjustments to the reaction as a result of the pandemic are one category I would offer there. Another area more overarching over the years is just various advancements in technology and building science. So, for example, related to sustainability, there's constant evolution of products that are available and methods that are available. Like energy storage, as batteries, lithium batteries have become more affordable. We're seeing more and more installation of battery energy storage, and we need to be cognizant of the fire protection issues there. This is a hot topic in the industry. There's ongoing testing and research about the effectiveness of different suppression systems on battery incidents. So, any advancements in building technology need to be reacted to by the fire protection industry in that sense. Mm-hmm. So we have all these new problems that are coming up. One larger trend that we try to incorporate into everything we do from an infrastructure standpoint is new methods and new ways to find unique solutions for unique problems. And traditionally, building codes are written in the way that they tell you what to do. They prescribe exactly how to do certain things or what methods and materials to use, for example. But a lot of people are not aware that building codes most building codes include an equivalency clause. What that equivalency clause allows is it allows the design team to use alternative methods and materials if approved by the local authority. And if we can prove that they provide an equivalent level of protection, performance, whatever the prescriptive code requirement might be, we can use these alternative ideas. if they're accepted. So once we are able to establish our methodology to go through that avenue, it opens a lot of doors to innovation for us. And this is very helpful. And I mentioned like unique solutions for unique problems. It really comes into play when we're doing work that has these unique challenges, like when we're trying to renovate or transform an existing historic building or landmark building, where we have severe architectural constraints or landmark constraints that we need to work with. So we're always working to further that methodology in-house and throughout the industry.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like you'd be of the opinion that there isn't really a fire code that presents a complete obstacle to a developer or designer's grand vision. There's ways of addressing these hindrances, and maybe you can discuss, some of the more creative solutions that you've come up with, in the years.
Sure, and I love that, using that term grand vision, which can mean so many things. From a fire protection engineer's perspective, the grand vision has to include safety, and I think everyone would agree with that.
Yeah.
So we're always working to reconcile whatever that grand vision is, whether it's an architectural grand vision, it could be a grand vision of the community or society, on sustainability. So from a fire protection and safety standpoint, our goal is always to achieve those grand visions while meeting our fire protection goals. And the more we're able to leverage technology and creativity through that performance-based design process and the equivalency, clause of the codes, that's how we get to innovation. That's how we get to innovative solutions. One project that comes to mind, I mentioned working in historic buildings, was the construction of Audible.com's headquarters in Newark, New Jersey. Mm-hmm. That was a conversion of a 19th century cathedral into a modern tech office, tech headquarters.
I live in New Jersey. I know that building.
Oh, great. Cool.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Really beautiful. So the architectural centerpiece of that, maintaining the shell of the building. So the historic shell of the cathedral was maintained while renovating the interior. And the interior contains 2 atriums that are connected on the first floor. Those 2 atriums are a key part of the interior design of the building, but present a lot of fire protection challenges. So we use this, and to navigate that equivalency clause, we use a methodology called performance-based design. And what that allows us to do is it gives us a step-by-step methodology to investigate and confirm alternative solutions. So coming back to the way you were describing it, this grand vision for the Audible.com headquarters, yes, there was this architectural vision, build the modern tech office in this historic building, maintain some of the great architectural features of the original building. That's part of the grand vision, but it extends beyond that in the sense that this is an effort to revitalize this community.
Yeah.
So, the grand vision is all of these lofty goals that we have as a society that need to be reconciled with our safety standards.
Mm-hmm. Dan, you've mentored students interested in engineering and fire protection. What do you think the industry needs to do to attract younger people to these fields?
It's a great point. And mentoring and teaching is one thing that I love about my job. And you have to love it to do this job. It's an apprenticeship style profession. And as part of my committee work with the Society of Fire Protection Engineers, one of our goals is to just make people more aware of our engineering discipline. So there's a lot of outreach happening to engineering students or prospective fire protection engineers. The fire protection engineering discipline is relatively young compared to some of the others that have been more established and around for a longer period of time. So that makes it a really exciting time to be a fire protection engineer. Traditionally, fire protection is a very prescriptive and rigid industry. tried and true and absolutely proven methods are to be used, which is great. But what we're seeing now is that as technology becomes more accessible and more available to a larger group, we're able to incorporate these things more into our normal design process. And that means that we're incorporating innovation into our normal routine, whereas the opposite used to be true. For example, the picture I have in my background here is Grand Central Terminal.
Right.
Our firm, did all of the infrastructure engineering for the transformation of Grand Central Terminal in the 90s. Talk about a grand vision. We're talking about, Jackie Onassis's grand vision and creation of the Landmarks Commission, right? But when we did, and you see the main concourse of Grand Central here, where we, through a similar performance-based design method, kind of before that was as established as it is now, designed a smoke control system to manage smoke in a fire scenario for that main concourse. Fast forward to the audible.com project, that we're designing a few years ago. And I'm on my PC. We built our own fire model from scratch for that project, but using the fire modeling software, much easier to use, more accessible. Granted, whoever's using these tools needs to thoroughly and fully understand them. They're more accessible to the general engineering population, should they be so inclined to get into it. So as this technology becomes more available and more accessible, that's going to breed more innovation into the future.
Do you think as technology becomes more accessible, it might make younger people more interested?
Absolutely. And it's not only, I think you make a great point. And one way to look at it is that, sort of this incorporation of technology will make the next generation more interested. I would say also on the flip side, this next generation, as they do come into this field, which there will be a high demand for them. They're going to bring their technological capability with them. So there's sort of a nice feedback there, I think.
Well, Dan, thanks for spending a couple of minutes with us. I really appreciate your time. This is obviously a subject that's on every developer's mind, and we'll keep an eye on how it proceeds.
Thanks so much for having me, John.
Okay, and this is John Caulfield from Building Design and Construction. Thanks for watching.